We're here in Columbus. Do you want me to just KA is fine?
Yup, K.A. Freeman.
K.A. Freeman. We're here with K.A. Freeman. We were briefly talking about the Occupy movement and how the police tore it down. And because I was saying that was sort of like one of my first like experiences with like seeing police like tear down physically like sort of activism work. And how that sort of, that was one of my first tastes of sort of like activism work and police and all that stuff. And after that, I left New York and I went to Miami. I started protesting in Miami. Mm-hmm. I did some protests through the Dream Defenders, which is like an organization in Miami. When like Mike Brown had got killed and Trayvon Martin, which is in Florida, which is in South Florida. And then I went to Ferguson, which that was my first time like in Missouri, and I protested there, and that was like another eye-opening sort of experience. And after that, it was just like, well, like I see I have to give my life to the struggle type situation. And it was just kind of like, no, and that was when I started doing videos. I started doing videos in 2014. Okay. My first video that I ever did was about Ferguson. And it was just like, it was like a surreal experience, even like protesting in Ferguson. Cause like, for example, you go there and it was like people that had been there already for a while, and they tell you like, okay, this is what you do, like this the lawyer number, like write the lawyer's number on your arm. So like in case you get arrested, you can like call the lawyer, someone. You have the number, because they're going to like take everything from you, and they're like not going to let you contact anybody, or they're only going to give you like one phone call. Make sure like you call the lawyer, like don't call your mom, don't call your dad, like call the lawyer. But that was also like something that I kind of feel like didn't really get shown, which is fine, but was that was also my first experience of like, I guess you could say like protest work as community work. Yeah. Because I went to Ferguson, I didn't know where I was going to stay. I didn't know where I was going to sleep. I just felt like compelled, like I have to go. Like I have to be there. I have to like add like my physical body. Like it's not just enough, because I was on Tumblr and I was like writing like posts, and I was like following the protests, the live streams, but I just felt like it wasn't enough. I felt like I need to like, my physical body needs to like be there. You know, people are like putting their bodies on the line, people getting, you know, like getting shot, like all types of stuff. Yeah. Like I need to like go. But I didn't know where I was going to sleep. I know like literally where I was going to stay, how I was going to eat. I didn't know a soul in Missouri. I had never been to Missouri in my life. And I got there. I put on Tumblr that I was going. Somebody hit me up and was like, oh, me and some people I know are also going. So when you get there, hit me up and we'll see if we can like meet up. Yeah. And I remember I got there. I was like riding on a train. I was like following the live streams. I don't really think they still do this now, because like it's just different now. But like the live streams sort of used to show like, we're here, we're on this street, we're on that street. So I was like following where people were, and I had like hit the person up like, oh, I'm riding on the train and I'm going to like this street, this location where I see people are. That's where I'm going to be. And the person hit me back like, oh, I have on a red shirt, like find me. And I found the girl, and she was like, oh, I ran into I met this person earlier, and they said that they're going to be sleeping on the floor in somebody's living room, and that the person said that like whoever wants could like sleep there. So then I was like, all right, cool. So then I was like sleeping on the floor in somebody's living room, like with these people that I just met, but like we all like stuck together, and we was all black. Yeah. Like, and we was all black, like sticking together like a community of like, well, I got somewhere we could sleep, or like I know somebody said we could like eat here for free. Yeah. We could like do this, we could do that. And so that was also my first experience, not of just like the actual like act of protest, but also the act of like, I look out for you, you look out for me, like
how it should be.
And it really did sort of just like inspire me. And this, like I said, this was like 2014. So now here we are in 2019 of just like, like this how it should be. Like we don't need like, we can look out for ourselves.
It's like the Baptist church where they say, you know, everything we need is in the house. Like back in the days, they would say that. Like, absolutely. Like, that's like the black infrastructure, we have everything we need. Yes. If we utilize it, if we like trust, you know. Yes. So I definitely agree with that.
Yes, and it took a lot of trust, because there was people that was saying to me like, you are crazy. Yeah, like you don't know anybody there. People getting Right, because on the news and the media, all they showing is like, and they like lighting gas stations on fire, and they looting and robbing, and this is happening and that's happening, and like I can't believe like you crazy, like you don't know and I was just like I just have to trust that like I guess nothing bad's gonna happen to me, and that like it was just like I look at this situation and I see my people that are rioting because we're upset. People always want to quote like Martin Luther King Jr., but like Martin Luther King Jr. also said, riot is the language of the oppressed and the unheard.
Yep.
So like I see my people that's like upset, angry, furious. Like Mike Brown was killed. He laid in the street for hours.
Yeah.
Of course they're rioting.
Yeah.
Of course, like that doesn't mean that I have to personally feel like I'm bodily in danger. I feel like I'm in danger from these like white cops that's like shooting bullets and tear gas at people. I don't feel like I'm in danger from like my own people making our voices heard, and nothing bad happened to me. And I literally like I'm sleeping on the floor in somebody's house that I don't know, and it was like one of like the most profound like experiences like really of my life, and it just sort of like set me on the path that I'm like still on now, I guess.
That's dope. That's dope.
So you live in Columbus now, but you're from Detroit.
Yeah, I've been here for like a year, so still getting used to everything, but from the east side of Detroit, 6 Mile and Gratiot, like, and some of the same things. We see like the struggle. We see like the, see people controlling the narrative of Detroit.
Right.
There's so many like thought leaders, entrepreneurs, intellectuals, just so many people like hustling and doing well for the community. But you're not going to see that, you know. You're going to see like the killings, which is still a problem. Like we still have real issues, right? But ultimately, like there's a core group of like community. There's like a hub of like people like going hard for each other, and like what you said, like people have your back. People will fight for you. People will like, we barter, like the bartering system. Where back in the days, you know, your mom would send you to the neighbor to get sugar. Your neighbor would come and get milk.
Right.
Like that still exists, but unfortunately, I mean, gentrification, a whole bunch of issues in Detroit. Like it's because Detroit is like very segregated, or for so long it was. So you can definitely drive and say, hey, this is the black community, because food deserts, lack of resources. We know about Flint, but like shit is real. Like it's just real. So
how do you feel like Columbus compares to Detroit from your time here?
Yeah, only been here for like a year, but I will say like Columbus is interesting to the where like even where we are now, like you have like a nice, prevalent, nice community 5 blocks away. It's like the hood. It's like, and you could tell where the resources stop almost. Like it's like, wait, and it's always where black and brown people are, mainly black people for sure. Like you can tell like a difference. But and even like there's like an area, like an open mall called Easton, not too far away from here. And one day, I forget what we were, where I was going. Anyway, I was in like, I live in like Reynoldsburg, Pickerington area. So I was going to like this restaurant. We ate there, and it was like restricted. It was like no, it was a black owned business, so I wanted to support. So there was like no resources there. The community was depleted. It reminds me of Detroit. But then we had to meet up with like a friend in Easton, and just that 10-minute drive, and you go to Easton, like fancy cars, white people walking around, like dressed nice, like you can see like all of the resources are there, and they restrict those resources from like black communities for sure. So it was just like it was a wake up call. But there is some similarities, but I will say Detroit is like different because like there's miles of like,
I know they use the term like urban blight for Detroit, where it's just like nothing. There's like nothing there.
Nothing at all. So that's why you hear a lot of people going to like purchase homes like very cheap, trying to flip them. But yeah, but those opportunities never come for like people like us. Like we can't, like they even like, I think it was like a hospital they built, and they tore down like the projects, the Brewster projects, I believe. They tore down the projects to build like this hospital, and made like the black people there move like way out in the suburbs, like where there was like nothing, you know? So you can definitely see downtown Detroit versus like white women jogging like down Wayne State or whatever.
That's like the first sign. You'd be like, oh no.
Yeah, Starbucks and a white woman. Like anytime I see Starbucks and a white woman, I'm like, okay, we gotta go. Like, like we gotta go now. Like they're forcing us out. But
they try to do the same thing with Berry Farms in DC, which is like a project, like building community, whatever. And they like sued. They sued the city. They were like, you trying to like tear down, because it's funny how they do it. They say urban revitalization or something like that. So it's like, well, we're gonna these project buildings are they're full of crime and they're full of poverty and drugs and this, that, and the third. So we're gonna tear them down and we're gonna like build something new, and it's gonna be like better, like we're gonna like revitalize the neighborhood or whatever. But it's like nobody ever like takes into consideration that when you tear down what's basically low income housing, if you don't like replace it with low income housing, where are those people supposed to go? Like they're not gonna be able to afford the quote unquote like revitalized like new housing that you're building. And so like Berry Farms, they sued DC. And they were like,
did they find it like unconstitutional or?
Yeah, they were like that it was DC has been sued several times now by like citizens, like residents that have said that basically what they're trying to do is push people out and like push black residents out, which is absolutely true. And they're saying that, well, in a lot of these plans, because a lot of plans technically have like, I don't know if clause is the right word, but like that's what I'm going to use. They technically have like clauses in them that say if you're tearing down low income housing, like project buildings, you have to build at least some low income housing. Like you're supposed to do like, oh, if it's going to be some mixed use buildings, which means like shops, residential, maybe like condos, high income to median, you are supposed to also build most like civic codes, like city, like municipality, like laws. They say like you're all supposed to have like, that's also supposed to be for like low income and like elderly like residents.
Yeah, but there's some
But most of the times they don't do it. So, but like these people, like these citizens, like new in DC, a lot of people are like hip. They like no. So they sued the city. They were like, oh, y'all supposed to be building, but we looked over the plans and we don't see no low income housing, or y'all have y'all low income housing priced at $1,300 a month. Like who can afford that? That's not low. Like where we live now is $400, $500 because of projects. It's like government assisted. So it has to at least be somewhere in the same like range. You can't like build $1,300 condos and then claim it's low income. And they got a lawyer to take their case and they sued the city and they won.
That's
so like they still to this day, now they're still trying to like tear the projects down, but like to this day they're still there.
They're still fighting.
They're still fighting. And so it's interesting to me too that like basically they try to like take advantage of like people not knowing, like we're gonna have the city hall meeting, because technically all that stuff is supposed to be public record, like all the plans of what they're gonna do, how long it's gonna take, where the building's gonna go.
But that's not the case.
But that's not always the case. They try to take advantage of people, or they try to like not make it public, or put it at, oh, we're gonna have the meeting at 3:00 in the afternoon when like people
Most
be
people
at work, you know, stuff like that.
Picking up their kids from school.
Right. So they try to like take advantage of the loopholes. And that's why I have like a serious issue with like infrastructure, like the infrastructure as it exists. And people always say like I'm so radical, because I'd be like, fuck the infrastructure as it exists. Like black people need to start ourselves trying to find ways around the infrastructure, find ways around the loopholes, because it's just like, I feel so often like black people be the only ones like, and black Americans especially, we be the only ones like still trying to like play fair. Like, oh, we're gonna like work hard, we're gonna like do everything right, and we're gonna get ahead. But meanwhile, people are playing so dirty and taking advantage of like all this stuff. And not saying we necessarily need to like lower ourselves, debase ourselves or anything like that. But it's just like, we need to like also figure out ways around the infrastructure, because it's just not built with us in mind. It's never going to work in our favor.
Well, I just feel like black people in general, we're too inclusive. Like we like to include people. Like it's like second nature. So I feel like that's definitely a problem, and that's why we can never have we have not to have like enough black hospitals, black schools, or like things just for us, because we feel obligated to like share. No one else, the Asian community, Hispanics, white America, like they don't share, they don't offer up things to us, but we always offer, and we feel bad as if we enslaved a group of people and fucked them over for like centuries. Like that's not the case. So we need to like get back to like hey, this is our stuff. I'm not, I don't care if you're an ally or whatever. Like, I'm not bringing you in, you know? Or if you really want to fight for me, because I see this a lot, and you see people say we're fighting for black people, but typically it's just like a way to get in to look cool. Or I would say you look at like some of these white women who fight, and we can talk about that. I feel like white women are like the most dangerous group in America. Like the way they manipulated like the system to have like even black men thinking like when you think of white supremacy, you think of like the white man. The white woman was right there too. I recall I was reading a book about Frederick Douglass, and he talks about, I think it was his autobiography, and he talks about he gave an example of like his wife niece who was like a slave herself. She had to be like 14, and her job was like to work inside the plantation home, and she would like take care of big white babies, right? And one night she was in the room with the baby and the mom, the white mom. The baby started crying. It was like middle of the night, and the black girl, obviously she's a slave, tired from like taking care of like all those damn white babies.
Right.
So the baby started to cry. The white woman hopped up, went to the fireplace, grabbed a log. Instead of taking care of her baby, she hits the black girl.
Get up and go get the baby.
Yeah, but kills her.
Oh.
Shit was crazy. It's like, so we don't tell stories like that, like related to like the white woman role in slavery, Jim Crow. Those white tears are like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like they would like get black men killed, get black women killed, put us in prison. Like, so it's just like a difficult situation when you say these people are fighting for, like for white women, say all women. No, middle, they're fighting for white women for sure. They use feminism or whatever the case may be. And I'm a supporter, like I make it clear, I support black women. I don't care if you're a feminist or if you, because like the jury is still out. Like some black women say, no, I'm not about that shit. Some black women say, yeah, I'm about it. But to let it be known where I stand, I'm for black people, black women, black men. So, but
this reminds me of the other day. So I used to follow this midwife page on Instagram that was about like black like midwives and like black like just like midwifery and doulas and sort of like getting back to like holistic. I don't know if you saw this episode, one of the earlier episodes of the first season of Black Americans. I was talking with Adrian, who's a black midwife out in Oakland.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like how like black women have the highest rates of like infant mortality and like all the
Columbus is like number one.
Really?
Yeah, number one in the nation for sure.
I did not know that.
My wife does work in that field, so yeah, it's pretty prevalent, and also there's a big community of midwives here too.
Wow,
yep. That's
really good to know.
Yeah.
I'm like file that in my like mental Rolodex.
Such a big deal here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, we'll have to like line up, like and talk to somebody, like get back to Columbus and talk to somebody. Maybe we could talk to your wife.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I remember like I was following the page, and so the page is like almost like a directory. They show like all like a bunch of different like black midwives. It wasn't like any one like woman's page. And I remember like one of them, I like went and looked at her page, and she had like this pregnant Asian woman like dancing, and it was a lot of people in the comments that was like, your whole page is supposed to be like pro-black, like midwifery stuff, and you have this like Asian woman dancing. Like I don't like. A lot of people were like, I'm confused about like what is your.
We always include people.
Yeah, like what are you talking about? And the girl was like, well, which I mean, it's fine. Like it's her page, like it's her life, it's her practice, whatever. She was like, I'm all about like healthy babies, and like I'm just about like delivering healthy babies. And it was like a pregnant Asian girl. She was like dancing or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought that this was like a good video of like it was happy, like it was joyful, whatever. And I'm just about like healthy, happy pregnant women and like healthy, happy babies. Like I'm black, so like I am also pro-black, but like. I don't know. And then she was getting into the like, I believe like love and health and happiness and love is love and all this other stuff. And people were like, okay, that's well and that's fine. But Asian women don't have the highest infant mortality rates in the country. Like black women do. And like we're here on your page to see black women and to learn about like black women.
But she showed you love.
She
showed you love. And that's interesting too. Like I'm curious to know like your stance on that, because I feel like black people in America, we have navigated from like being like under the spell of like white Jesus or like the Bible. Now we're like white Jesus was like manipulated us a lot. You know, we'd do things for white Jesus. But now we're in the point where we're doing it for like Cupid or love.
Love.
The way we frame love now is like it's so interesting. We
what do you
always
mean?
like
I'm curious.
Yeah, like so I'm not gonna get too much into it, but like just let me see how the best way I can put it. Let's put it this way. We talk about love on the positive side. I think for life and everything there's like balance, and there's like this balance you need between everything. So love is framed the way we put our guards down when it comes to like including people. We do it out of love and stuff like that.
Okay.
I can love people from afar. They don't need to be next to me. They don't need to take over. We don't need to have like these, like you think about like hip hop where there's so many like white executives and stuff like, oh, he's cool. We bring him in,
all love.
And then they don't operate in love. We do. We bring people in. Some of the top podcasts now, they have like, we're there for like the black artist or the black rapper, whatever that was, you know, that we grew up listening to. But they always have like some white guys on their platforms or Cuban guys on their platform, and these people come up off of these black artists or black people, and then they kind of take over our culture, our music and stuff like that. But in terms of like the way I like to frame love is like, have you ever been in love before or thought you was in love?
Yeah.
Yep. And you was manipulated. You did some stupid shit because of love. We need to stop framing love as like this utopia, like this this great thing, right? I mean, obviously it's good, but you can do some stupid shit out of love. So I just noticed a lot of people use that to be like in different relationships and stuff like that, which I'm cool with. But don't stop saying love. Like you got to understand, like in this Western world where we live in, like we're programmed a certain way. So the benevolent white man, the benevolent white woman is always above us subconsciously. I think for most people. So like I frame love as like black love.
Yes.
Black people loving each other, and not black love just like a woman and man in a relationship. But if I'm at the gym and just opening my mouth talking to another black man, or that's black love. I agree. When we do community work or we share, that's black love. So I want it to be like
that was like what I felt like I saw in Ferguson even was like black love, like people just like out and like. Again, it was sort of like framed. It was like framed a certain type of way, like that you're supposed to be so scared and like, oh my gosh, like, and obviously like I was upset, I was angry about what happened, but I wasn't scared. And when I got there, like I felt embraced, I did feel like, and even, I don't know if you know like Vonderrit Myers.
No.
Vonderrit Myers was also killed in like the St. Louis area around that same time, and that one like really hurt my feelings because like Vonderrit Myers was this like young dude, and he was killed like right after he had left the corner store. It was like him and his two friends.
I heard about that story.
In the corner store, and they had like got some sandwiches, and then they left, and then the police tried to say that he had a gun, that they seen a gun on him. Yep. And then like the corner store owner had like stepped forward and was like, he was just in my shop right before like they killed him right outside the shop. He was like, and I know for a fact that he did not have a gun. And he was like, and I have like the security like footage, and he was like, and I knew like Vonderrit Myers, I knew that kid, and I know all those kids because they used to come in my store like every day.
Yeah, they grew up in that community.
And then he like released the footage, and like the young kids now, like wear their clothes kind of tight, like, so you could tell like he didn't have nothing on him. And I remember like watching the footage, and it just like broke my heart because it was like him and like his two homies, and because it was like the the security camera. Yep. And they was like joking around and like chopping it up with each other, and they had like got the sandwiches and like got some candy, got some sodas. Like, here, you have a bite, I have a bite. I felt like love for them. I felt like I could have knew them. Like those could have been boys that I knew. Those could have been like friends of mine. Those could have been like like niggas from my block. Like. That's like the love that I felt for like my fellow black person. It was like I didn't have to know him personally, but I felt some type of way.
And that's how I feel like with black people.
And
we're only like 13-14% of like the population for us to be so divided and not really talking or not, like anytime I see a black person, like I feel like that's family, extended family. I don't need to know you. I don't need to know your history, but we're family. So anything I can do to help or like just start a conversation, because sometimes we go past and we don't even speak nowadays. It's like, wait, we're such a small population here in America, but we can't talk. Yeah. So just interesting.
We've also been talking a lot on like these episodes and stuff too about like especially culture, and how even though our like Black American culture is like very regional, like a lot of it's like region and location, but how we also do still have a lot of like shared culture, and how you like come across people that maybe they live somewhere totally different than you, but like they might have still like listened to the same type of song that like you listened to growing up, like, or like ate a certain type of food, or like, you know, just like certain types of like commonalities, like things that we have in common that do like have us sort of bonded to one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which was also part of the reason why I wanted to like do the show, like traveling and like getting out across different places, to show that like we do have like commonalities. We are different too, which is like cool, seeing like differences, again, like region, location, and slang and like all those types of stuff. But at the same time, it's like in a lot of ways like we have similar mindsets. Yeah. And it's like I do think that we should like embrace that a lot more. Like I got into like Black-owned businesses, and it was just like something I noticed with every single Black-owned business, especially the smaller ones, was that a lot of the times when they would like send me my package, I would have a note, like a handwritten note, and it might have my name on it even, like, hey, Seren, like, thank you so much for supporting, you know, like, I'm a small business, or like, I'm a one-woman business, it's like me and my husband and my kids, or, you know, like, thank you so much, we handmade this, or we did this, or we did that. And it was just like, I feel the love. Like, I really felt the love. And it was just like, oh, I could tell that that's something that is like real, it's tangible. Like, and once you start sort of getting into it, it's almost like the wool gets pulled out of your eyes. I always talk about The Matrix. I feel like The Matrix is my favorite movie. I feel like The Matrix is real. Like, we're really living into The Matrix. We're really living in The Matrix. And like once you get like unplugged and you like see the code, you like see shit for what it really is. It's no going back.
Yep, you can't go back.
It's no going back. Yeah.
And I'm glad, you know, like I spend a lot of time, like we always try to like support Black businesses, and it's not even try, we do. Like we just go. And it's funny how like there's like this narrative of like bad customer service, and I'm always reminded of like you go to like a beauty supply store with the Asians and they walk around following you, and we never say nothing about like bad customer service. We go to like the gas stations in Detroit, like a lot of Arabs have like the gas stations. You go there, they don't even want to give you your change back and shit. They like try to short you. It's like, wait, but we talk about Black-owned businesses, so I'm definitely like an advocate. Like I support Black businesses for sure, because we need to. Like that Black dollar, like even when I wrote the book.
Let's get into the book.
Well, so it's not done yet. So hopefully it will be out within a few weeks. But it was like I was very intentional, like with my Black dollar. So the 4 editors I use 4 all Black people. The cover designers, I use 3 because I've been working on it since 2015. Okay. So obviously you change your mind a lot. So.
Do you want to like talk a little bit about the book and like say what it's about and?
Well, so I make it
just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like
make it brief. I don't want to do any promo.
Just a little bit.
But the book is called Let's Be Clear. I actually wrote 2 books. One is to highlight the perseverance and greatness of Black women. That's the first one. The second one is the same thing, the perseverance and greatness of Black men. And interestingly enough, I was motivated by a Black man to write this book. Like, and that's like, you know, I know we don't want to talk about Black men a lot, but. No, absolutely. Like
talk about whatever you want.
Yeah. When I went to VA, we was in Virginia, and my wife had to start the job right away, so I had to stay at home for a few months to take care of like the kids, like or to like get them ready for school and stuff. So I would go to Barnes and Noble in this Black bookstore there, and I would read like everything I possibly could, because I feel like it was like a turning point in my life where I need to find out like who I was as a Black man. So I would read Booker T, W.E.B., Marcus, Malcolm, everybody, Martin, Delaney, everybody I possibly could. I even went back to like Africa to like understand what was the like culture like at that point. And then I picked up the autobiography of Assata Shakur. And it's funny.
That's a good one.
And I felt like it was so powerful, because if you just view Black women as just a look, you think about like, okay, there's nobody who, the Black woman is the most beautiful woman in the world. So you have like this Black woman with afro, and you see it on the cover page. But then when you flip the page, now you have to wrestle with like 200, 300 pages of like intellect, and they kind of put the value. You understand the value of your woman at that point. So Yeah, so motivated by that, my grandma passed away like 20 years ago in Detroit. Took care of like the entire family, raised her kids, and then when her kids had kids, she helped raise us. Typical like black community stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to write a book to like highlight her, but when I came across Asada, and I thought about my mom who also recently passed away, thought about my wife and daughter, so you know what? As a black man, I gotta like put out content to like uplift my community. Start with the black woman, uplift the black man as well, and obviously, you know, the black kids. So
how do you feel about like, because people be acting like, you know, there's like a war going on between like black men and black women, like all this tension.
Social media.
Social media.
Social media is
I feel
interesting.
like the social media has been a lot.
Yeah, because even when we frame like black Twitter, it's still Twitter. So it's not like black Twitter is just like
separate.
Yeah,
it's not like we own it.
And if you know anything about white people, like my grandma, and you probably heard this before, we all have, like, they would say like white people are nosy, you know? But I don't think they're nosy. I think the people before us like misframed that. Like they study the enemy. Like we have been the enemy for so long. Like so they continue to like watch and hear. They want to know like the conversations we're having. And what social media has done is like pretty much those living room tables we will have like amongst the black people, like black family. Like we put that out in the world now. So now everybody see that shit. So yeah, I just feel like it's interesting. I don't subscribe to it. Like I'll uplift. I'm not gonna get into like that fighting with, because it's divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer. And I mean, if you want to like get deeper, it's just like light skin versus dark skin, the elders versus the youth, black man versus black woman, continental Africans versus Caribbeans versus black people in America. And obviously there are some things we need to talk about, right? So and you do a good job with that.
Thank you.
But ultimately, like, where do we go from here? Like, what is like, are we gonna like be divided always?
Right.
And it's not gonna be like a utopia where I have every black person's phone number, hey, you know, and we're like tight like that. But we should know like this is a system going against us. Like, what do we do to like protect ourselves from it? So I think that's like a greater conversation. But that black man versus black woman stuff, I know as a black man, no one has fought for me. Not no white women, not no white man. It's not going to be no gender war for me.
Right.
Like no white man, Asian man, Hispanic man has never marched and died for black man. It's always been black women. So I let it be known. Like, I'm for black people. So fuck that divide and conquer stuff.
I don't subscribe to the black man, black woman beef either. Like I've had people like really request that I do videos, and I just be like, I'm not doing videos on that. Like I don't believe it. I don't believe in it. I won't do videos on it. I won't feed it. I won't use my platform to feed it, to elevate it, to give it more attention. I refuse to participate in it. I just won't. And I also feel like something that has also been a side effect maybe of social media is that it's kind of like people give more attention to, it's sort of like if you have like 10 people, and out of those like 10 people, let's say you have 10 black men, and out of those 10 black men, 9 of them are like, I love black women, like black women are great, black women are amazing. And then it's like one that's like, I hate them black bitches, like fuck them. You will find that one. And engage in a conversation with that one, and engage in a back and forth with that one, and give that one all this time and all this energy. And I mean, and that could even be like broken into, like, I don't talk about white people really anymore on my platform. Like I was just like, I'm not going to continue. Like number one, I really don't even care. Like I stopped caring about like that's just white people just going to be white. Like they're going to do what they do. Like I'm not investing time and energy. I never was, but I'm really not now investing like time and energy and like changing a white person's mind. I'm not trying to convince them of anything. Like I'm just not doing that. And so it's almost the same thing with like, if you're like a self-hating anything, black man, black woman, I see people that's like putting all this time and effort and energy into like black women are so great, and like black women are amazing, and like your mom is black, and like if you have kids, your kids are going to be black. And it's just like, you really, like, you just wasted, like, 5 hours of your day, like, going back and forth. Number one, with social media, too, you don't even know if that's really a black person.
I was about to have, like, that conversation for sure.
Like, people be with the digital blackface hard body these days.
All day.
So you don't even know, like, that could just be somebody trolling you to, like, make you upset and to, like, fan these flames even more of, like, just the other day, I was going to say, just the other day, I'm banned from Twitter permanently, but just the other day, it came out that, like, there was some account that was, like, posing as, like, a black man saying how much he, like, hates black women and, like, loves Mexican women. And it turned out that it was, like, some Mexican chick, like, behind the account. Now, number one, I feel like that's, like, very psychotic and, like, stalkerish of, like, going to that level of, like, making accounts to, like, create, to, like, sow seeds of, like, discord. Like, that's like some Cold War tactic.
Everyone does that shit to, like, black people for sure.
Yes.
Like, black people, we don't have time, like, you know, to, like, disguise as someone else, to, like, fuck with people.
I don't have
like
time.
We just don't have time. But apparently when it comes to, like, the unity of black people, there's so many try to break that shit up.
Yes. I guess people just find it to be, like, threatening, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's just, like, number one, I was like, I'm not arguing nobody because, like, number one, you don't even know if that's really a black person. Anytime I see somebody, like, 9 times out of 10, as a black person, I think I'd be like, nope, because I have never said that phrase in my life. Like, I don't trust it. I don't believe it. And even for the ones that are, like, that just are self-hating or, you know, for whatever reason, let them go, you know, frolic in the field with they white women or they non-black person of color women or whatever. Like, for, again, I do feel like for every, like, one of those, it could be, like, 9 more black people, black men, black women, whatever, you know, that are on your side or that have your back. But you put in all this energy into try to, like, change the mind of somebody that, like, don't like you, don't want you, don't want to like you, don't want you. And I personally feel like a lot of this goes back to integration, fake ass integration. We never really were integrated. Nope. That never really happened. We were assimilated, right? We were, like, picked up. We were forcibly moved into another culture, the sort of dominant, like, white culture. I did a video on that, on, like,
I've seen it.
How I feel about that shit, yeah. And so I feel like we kind of have not really let go of the mindset of, like, we have to convince people of things. We have to change people's minds. We have to, like, prove, like, I am a man or I am a woman. And, like, no disrespect to, like, because I've been to, like, Memphis. I went there last season and I saw, like, the I Am a Man Plaza, which was, like, the historical protest, you know, for the rights of black men in Memphis, Tennessee. So, like, no disrespect to that, not to tear that down. That's not the case at all. But it's like, I'm not about to, like, argue with nobody that, like I'm a woman or that, like, you are a man. Like, I'm just not about to, like, no, I'm not about to do that.
That's how I feel. We have to, like, prove, like, to the world that we're human. Yeah. Like, we have to prove it constantly. And one way you have done, like, people have done that is, like, engage with, like, white people. You got to be constantly around white people. Like, if you need to be around me to, like, fight for black people, like, I don't want you around me. Like, so I respect people who are, because you will see this, like, you go to, like, the poetry night, a whole bunch of white people there, which is fine. Go to the Baptist church, a whole bunch of white people there. And I noticed, like, they would, like, invest in black people when they're, like, sleeping with black people, like, for the most part. Or if they're in, like, close proximity to black people, they will fight. Fight for me and my people from a distance, you know? Because within those relationships, at that point, you prove that you're human as a black person.
Yeah, and it's easy to do it when you're here. Like, it's easy to do it when you are, you know, in the neighborhood, or you feel like your boyfriend, girlfriend is black, whatever. It's harder to do it when you're at home with your white family, sitting at the dinner table with your racist ass grandma, you know, scared to check her about calling people niggers. And constantly. That's when it matters. And I feel like that's when it matters. If you're not doing it there, like, you're not doing nothing. Like, I don't even, like, deal with white people at all. Like, and I don't even really believe in white allies, really. Which I did a video on that, because I just feel like, what even is an ally, really? Like, what's the point of it? Like, what is the purpose of it? Especially when we're talking about white people, like, white people control, like, the dominant power structure. I feel like if white people decided they wanted, like, structure, not even getting into, like, the hearts and minds of people, but if white people decided they wanted, like, structural racism to be over today,
it would be over.
It would be over.
Yep, I talk about that, like, constantly, because the people who, like, started, like, white supremacy, slavery, whatever, they died centuries ago. Right, like, it would be over. So you don't have to, like, come to poetry night and be like, like, that's not you being a quote-unquote ally. Like, that's just not real. Like, you already have institutional power just because you're white
to like enter into a white space and like turn the table over on all that shit. So I'm not trying to like see you nowhere walking around the neighborhood or in the church or in the party or into here or into that talking about you an ally, because what you're really doing is you're taking up space.
And the bar is so low for those people too.
And you're censoring yourself, and you're ultimately making yourself seem special and like patting yourself on the back like, oh, I'm such a good white ally, when you're not doing a thing. Like I'm not with it. I'm not with that shit at all. And again, like even getting back to what I was saying about like learning about like infrastructure and like seeing systems like work outside of the system, around the system, barter and trade. And I've seen like a lot of like different activism sort of spaces operating, especially like anti-capitalist ones that say like, well, we don't want to operate within like a capitalist power structure, which ultimately is a white supremacist power structure. So like we want to do a barter and trade system, or, you know, like I do this for you, you do this for me. You know, we figured this out, who has what skills, who can do what. Like I was in this fellowship program where part of the program was like we had to like all sign up on this like Google document with like what our skills were. And then we could figure out like, oh, well, like you babysit. Well, like, okay, I do video installation work. I'll trade you like 5 hours of babysitting if you babysit my kids, and I'll like do your video installation for you. So like we don't have to involve, and it was like there was like no white people involved in the fellowship program. So it was like we don't have to have like the white infrastructure involved. We don't have to have like money necessarily involved. Like we're trading skills. We're figuring out what everybody can do. We put on 2 or 3 shows with no money, like art shows with no money. We did like all the setup, breakdown, the install ourselves. It was like somebody was like, hey, I know somebody that does flyers. We can like get flyers. Oh, I know somebody that does like food, catering, you know, just like pooling resources and figuring out how to sort of run, again, like community infrastructure outside of what already exists. And ultimately, I feel like Black people across ethnicities, and I know I said this in like another episode, need to really figure out like more ways of like how can we implement like working outside of that infrastructure, just like across the board. Because like I just don't think it's gonna work. I'm radical. Like I just don't think it's gonna work inside of it. I know people believe that, and like kudos, whatever, that believe they can like change from like the inside, change from within. I don't believe that.
That's difficult. It's like the whole Malcolm versus Martin. And then when you come to like realize it, like Malcolm, like towards his later years, he was like trying to be more inclusive, at least to like a certain degree. He was still Malcolm. And then King was like
getting more radicalized.
So I think what we're finding is that like there's no one way. I think you got to be like you have to be like very resourceful in terms of like how we get this job done. How do we as Black people come up? And that's like a question there's not one answer to. Like I just feel that way.
I do too. I say all the time, like I think about revolution as like a car. So it's just like you have a lot of moving parts in a car, right? Not everybody could be the steering wheel, but like you also have like the brakes, which are important. You need the brakes, like you need the steering wheel, you need the windshield wipers, you need the gear shift, you know, you need the seats, you need the gas, you need all these things for your car to go. And it's sort of like if any one of those things breaks down, your car can't go, right? Like so I kind of think of revolution in that type of way, is that like people, there's not any one role, like there's a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different ways that we can like get our car to go. And I also feel like there's a lot of like, well, I don't think you're doing it the right way. I don't think
that's constant.
Because I've had people ask me too, like, what do I think about this person? I don't know if you noticed that, like on my channel, I don't talk about other YouTubers. I don't talk about what other people are doing. I don't like that. I don't like to do it. I talk about if I think somebody is like standing in the way of progress, or I think they're like cooning, or I think that they're like actively working against us, or things of that nature. But what other people are like doing in terms of like work, I don't like to talk about that. Even if I personally don't agree, I don't have to like get on my platform and be like, fuck this person, they doing it wrong, they doing it, because they doing it in their own way. And if like what they're doing gets the damn car to move, like I'm trying to move, like that's all I'm trying to do is move. So I think that that's another thing that gets in a lot of a lot of the way.
All right, so let me ask you this: when we're talking about like different ways to like impact our communities, so I think about like historically the people who have done like a good job with like.
Please call extension 136. Kanan, please call extension 136.
Alrighty.
Nice.
Yep.
The people who have done like a lot of work for us. Like, give me your top 5. I know that's like putting you on the spot.
That's hard.
And I think this might be like a conversation we need to start having. Like, who is like the top 5? We do it like in hip hop and different platforms.
I know. We do it in hip hop. My personal top 5 in terms of like revolution work.
Could you do like her story? I see like some of your hidden figures.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. So, Callie House, who was the very first. She was like the first Black American to create an organization to argue for reparations.
Okay. I know that.
Yeah, I did a hidden figures on her.
Okay.
They threw her in jail, too, for that.
Damn.
Yeah, they threw her in jail for that because she was traveling and basically like knocking door to door and like letting Black Americans know like, hey, and this was like in the 1870s.
Okay.
So it was like shortly after like the end of the Civil War and like emancipation, and being like, hey, did y'all realize that we didn't get our 40 acres and a mule? You know, like we need our stuff. And then she also started sending out like mailings. She got like a mailing list.
Okay.
She was like knocking door to door and like accumulating names and addresses.
Where's she from?
I want to say Virginia,
okay.
But that might not be true. You know what? Let me try and Google it real quick. But she was like going door to door. Let me see. Callie House was a leader of the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pension Association, one of the first organizations to campaign for reparations for slavery in the United States. She's from Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow, and we're still having that conversation now.
Yep.
Like we're still talking about reparations.
Yep, Nashville, Tennessee. Yep. So she started, they would visit Black churches. They would go door to door. At its peak, it claimed membership in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
And they ended up getting a mailing list together and like sending, like mailing out to people like, hey, like this is what we're going to do. We're trying to like get people together. We're trying to like fight for reparations, this, that, and a third. And the U.S. Postal Service ended up accusing her of fraud, of mail fraud.
Marcus Garvey.
Yep. And it was almost like they were saying to her like, you're telling people that they need reparations is fraud, because like Black Americans don't need no reparations. So I would say. So
she's where on your list? Top 5, or
that's
even
hard.
If it's like
I don't know if I could like
top 20.
Rank.
I don't know, like okay.
I could do a top 5, but I don't know if I could rank it.
Okay.
Like that. Callie House is definitely on there because she was like the first to be like, nah, this is not what's up.
Okay.
Toni Morrison, who
love
people
her.
know I love. Because she was one of the first, she was one of the first like writers that I read that was like writing specifically for Black Americans and sort of about our like Black American experience, like very specifically like this is who we are. And along those same lines, I would have to include Zora Neale Hurston,
of course,
anthropologist, who was really into, you know, again, this is our dialect, this is who we are, this is how we talk, this is what we eat, this is our culture. Joy DeGruy, who's a little bit more modern, more contemporary.
Yep, I have her book.
Yeah, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Yep, for sure.
So her book and her lecture series was actually like one of the first things that I read and watched when I started YouTube in 2014.
You know how I came across her?
How?
You.
Oh, through me?
Yeah.
So you know how I came across her? A subscriber left a comment on like one of my early, like one of my first 5 videos.
Yeah.
A subscriber left a comment that was like, have you ever heard of this social scientist named Dr. Joy DeGruy? It seems like a lot of the ideas that you have are like falling in line with a lot of her research, and I think you would like really love her stuff. She has this theory called post-traumatic slave syndrome. And so I like did my little Googles, and I ordered her book. I read her book, and her book just like blew me away. And then I saw that like she had this series of lectures on YouTube and stuff, and I watched her lectures, and I just remember thinking like, this makes so much sense. Like, this makes so much sense. Like, even the idea of post-traumatic slave syndrome as like an actual thing, like a trauma of like we're still like niggas never went to therapy to like deal with slavery, deal with the ending of slavery, deal with Jim Crow, deal with lynchings.
And people go to therapy when like they lose their dog and shit like that.
Right, like we never got no type of like, so not even just like let's say like the monetary aspect of like quote unquote reparations, but like the mental aspect of like things were just never dealt with emotionally. You know, she talks a lot about how we have still to this day behaviors that are holdovers from slavery. And I remember like an example that she gave that I just never forgot. An example that she gave was like, you know, during slavery times, if you had a child that was like really smart or like really talented, you know, right, like you run the risk of like your child being like sold away from you. So you might like pick up the habit of, you know, like Master might say like, oh, that like Jimmy like sure does do a good job. And you'd be like, nah, Master, that boy's slow. He don't know what he doing. He make mistakes all the time as like a protective tactic. And that's still to this day like something that we will do in our culture, you know, like people might, you know, compliment your child and you just be like, like,
and you don't even know you're doing it.
And you don't even realize you're doing it or really even understand some of like the emotional like resonance of why that's something that like goes back to slavery. And she had like all these examples and she was just like breaking all this stuff down as like, no, everything is related to slavery. Like everything, everything.
Get to the root cause.
So that was like really life changing for me because like prior to Dr. Dre DeGry, I felt that way. And I had people that was like, no, like you're crazy. Like everything doesn't have to be about race and like everything doesn't have to be about slavery. Everything doesn't have to be about this or that. And I was like, yes, it does. And then I remember just like reading her book and watching that stuff and being like, okay, finally, like this makes sense to me, like in a real way, in a tangible way, in a way that I could like see it. It's not just like blah blah blah, like academic words, jargon, theories. Like this is something that I could totally understand. I remember like another example she gave was like when she went to go see the Statue of Liberty, and she like took the tour. And the dude was like, yes, and the Statue of Liberty represents like freedom and this and this for like all people in the United States. And she was like, no, that's not true. Like, this doesn't represent freedom for like the Black American that's like descended from American chattel slavery. Maybe if you're like an immigrant that like came to this country and like passed through Ellis Island, that's what it represents. But that's not what it represents for us. Like that's inappropriate that you would even say that. And then she was like that, you know, the whole tour got flustered when she said that. And it was like that she just said something inappropriate. And she was like, y'all don't want little Jimmy and little Susie to know the truth of this country, but like that's what happened. And like Joy DeGruy was also one of the first contemporary Black women that I saw be like very unapologetic and just be like straight up like I don't give a fuck. Like,
she reminds me of like my aunt, my mom, just a couple people like in my family. Like, she's from Detroit.
Right. Like it felt very familiar. Her work felt familiar to me. And so that really, really, really like meant a lot to me. Now she has a like a capsule course, like an online course that people can take. And she had to put like a notation on her course, something that said like, yes, I know that like other people have been oppressed in the United States. And I know that there's because like her course is specifically on like American chattel slavery and like post-traumatic slave syndrome as it relates to like Black Americans, descendants of American chattel slavery. And she was like, yes, I know that like other people have been oppressed in the United States. And I know that there's like other Black ethnic groups in the United States, but like this specific course is on Black Americans or revolves around American chattel slavery. If you don't like that, then this is probably not the course for you. Like she had to like put that on there from I guess like people making complaints. But she was like one of the first people I seen that was just like, this is what it is. Like this is what it is. So she's like my mentor in my mind. So Callie House, definitely. Toni Morrison, Zora Neale Hurston, Joy DeGruy, and probably Alice Walker. Because I learned Alice Walker coined the term womanism, and I learned about womanism from Alice Walker.
Yep, she did.
Of just like, because like I never was into feminism because like the pillar of feminism is white supremacy. Like first wave feminism was literally because like Black Americans were fighting for the right to vote, and white women were like these niggers not going to get the right to vote before us. Like, votes for women. That's literally where, like, the suffragette movement came from.
Yeah, absolutely.
White women being like, no, darky's not going to get rights before us. So it's just like,
because it was already pissed off that, like, black men at one point had rights before them. So, and actually what's interesting about that situation is that they wasn't picking up any steam. Like, white men was like, we're not dealing with that right now. It was not until they started utilizing or bringing in black women to help out. Shit happens today. That shit started
happening.
Like, and then they got their rights.
And even then, it was like, they had, like, black women coming in, like Ida B. Wells, who would be on my list also.
She's on my list, too.
Yeah, who were coming in and, like, doing, you know, going around, because she was, like, an orator. She would, like, talk, you know, she's like giving these speeches, she's riling the people up, you know, and then when they said, well, we're going to have a march, a suffragette march, oh, but you can't march with us, or like the black women have to be in the back, you know, like, so I just can't, like, I just can't get down with feminism, like, I don't consider myself a feminist. I feel like it's a white supremacist, it's just another white supremacist power movement. It's just for the women, right?
Yeah, but the figureheads are starting to be like black women, because white women learned that, you know, if you want shit done,
you got to get a black woman to do it.
Have a black woman do it.
So Alice Walker would be on my list because she coined the term womanism, and the whole, like, socio-political theory of, like, no, I fight for black women specifically because black women have a certain issues, right? Certain problems. It's like, when you say feminism, it's just, it's not specific. Number one, like, it's white supremacist in nature, like, in history. And it's just not specific enough, really, because it's like, again, okay, back to the midwife thing, right? Like, oh, you a feminist midwife, and you're all about healthy babies, and so you have, like, dancing Asian women on your page, but, like, black women specifically.
Can we just focus on that for a minute until we, like, increase
for a second? You know, like, black women specifically have the highest infant mortality rates. So I need a movement that focuses on black women, like black women specifically, like when we're talking about, like, the pay gap, the wage gap, it's like, yes, you have white men obviously at the top, yes. White women are still above black
everyone
women,
else.
Right, and everybody else, you know, and so it's just like, when we're talking about, like, oh, you know, women get paid a certain amount of cents to the dollar. It's like everything involving feminism has this, like, invisible, like, white in front of it. Like, women got the right to vote on this date. No, you're talking about white women. Women make this certain amount to the white man's dollar. No, you're talking about white women. You know?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I can't get down with, like, that shit. So Alice Walker sort of brought, and Alice Walker also, like, wrote The Color Purple, which is, like, one of my favorite novels, movies, plays, like, and that was just about, like, the black, you know, American woman experience. And again, specific to, like, black American women, like, and black American women in the South, and like black American women that, like, ended up in the North in these cities, you know, this is what we go through. So Alice Walker, because womanism is, like, important to me. Ida B. Wells, because Ida B. Wells was just very, like,
courageous,
powerful and courageous and brave, you know, like, she's speaking out against lynchings and she's telling
fighting people on trains and shit.
Right, she's fighting people on trains. She's, you know, they burn her house down. People are shooting at her.
KKK looking for her. You know, she had to start traveling. She could never be in one place for too long, but she was like, I'm not going to stop because like, lynching is a disgrace. It's disgusting. It's vile, and somebody needs to speak out against it. And she even took it the next step further of being like, and every black American should have a motherfucking rifle in their home to protect themselves from when these people come. And she often traveled with the gun or two.
Yeah, with the gun herself. Like, it is what it is, you know. So she's like
some real shit.
Very powerful to me. Like, I really look up to her a lot, you know. So she would have to be on my list as well. That's 6. All those women I just named, and I also want to name actually 7, Bell Hooks, because Bell Hooks was one of the first people that I ever read that gave me a sort of a black woman's perspective on anti-capitalism.
I just like listening to her talk. I got one of her books, but she's like my grandma.
She's like a feminist, which I don't really like. And she has like a problem with Beyonce, which I find to be weird, but like a personal issue or something. But I think that's just because she's like a feminist. So she relates to a lot of like sort of white feminist ideals that I don't like. But I appreciate her. Like, she's brilliant. She's extremely smart.
Yeah, very smart.
And I really like her ideas on anti-capitalism a lot. And obviously I also have to say Angela Davis is, of course, that would be probably my 8th one, because Angela Davis, I just love the way that Angela Davis talks. Angela Davis has this way
like
of talking.
Cool.
Yeah, like, and she has this way of talking like, did you really just say that? Like, oh, Angela Davis, like, what do you think about when, like, black people advocate violence? And she'd be like, violence? Violence? When the KKK come to our houses, is that not violence? But you want to talk about black people protecting themselves? You know, like, she just has this way of talking, like, she just puts you in your place.
Yeah.
Which I love. And she's another one, like, very smart and just, like, super ahead of her time.
Yep,
like,
absolutely.
I always reference this, like, old essay of hers where she says, like, you know, we need to find a way to address domestic violence amongst black men and black women and issues in our interpersonal relationships without pathologizing and criminalizing black men, because she was like, the way that we talk about black men and pathologize and criminalize them is a part of white supremacy as well, you know, talking about, you know, black men and black people as if they're animals, you know, when we talk about each other in that way.
That still happens today.
Yeah, and this is like a 20-year-old essay. Like, this woman was like so far ahead of her time. It's wild. So Angela Davis too. So that's 8. Okay. So
what about Shirley Chisholm? Because I came across like an audio of like one of her speeches, and I thought it was so powerful. I'm like, wow. Like, obviously she ran to be like try to be president.
I like Shirley Chisholm, but I don't really believe in politics.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that. To me, the political like aspect of it. She's one of those like change from the inside type of people.
Yeah.
Which again, like, everybody can have their own opinion on that, but like, I don't really believe. But I don't really believe in that type of thing. So I don't care, and I'm sort of against organized politics.
Yeah.
Well, I am against organized politics, especially and nowadays too. I don't really feel like it's necessary, because the whole purpose of like organized politics and like electing leaders and representatives was because like people couldn't speak for themselves. Like, if it's like a horse and buggy town and everybody can't like get to the town hall, that's why you have to have elected representatives. Yeah. But that's not really an issue that you have anymore, because even if people can't physically get there, which we do still have like voter suppression of them like not allowing people to physically get there, but like most people have like a phone, or, you know, even if it's not a smartphone, a landline, internet access, you know, they have ways of making their voice heard, and especially with social media and stuff. So I just feel like organized politics and having like representatives and elected leaders is like, what's the point of that in a contemporary time period? Yeah. And even historically, I feel like politicians are fucking crooked. I'm not saying Shirley Chisholm was crooked. I don't know her personally, but I'm just like not down with the politics. And politics is too closely tied to capitalism, and you have to raise funds and campaign, and I'm not with any of that. So like, she personally wouldn't be on my list. I understand why that appeals to people, and I respect again what was accomplished. I respect Martin Luther King. I'm more of like a Malcolm.
Me too.
But like, I respect Martin Luther King, like, and I respect what was accomplished. I ultimately feel like, especially because he was becoming more radicalized towards the end of his life, I think he was killed before he. Number one, he was like a thought leader. He had thoughts. He had ideas. Yep. He had like the idea of integration, but he was kind of killed before it ever really could be implemented or come to fruition. And I'm sure it turned into something that he was not expecting. He even said himself, like, I fear I may have integrated my people into a burning house, you know? So like, I wouldn't even have Martin Luther King on my list, just because like, I don't feel like it ended up being the best for us in the long run. But I can have respect for his ideas and for what he wanted, and you know, for what he wanted for black people, and for what he represented
and accomplished too. Yeah, like, if some good things that he accomplished.
I just wouldn't personally.
You know who I like too, and this is like under the radar, like a Afeni Shakur. I love her story. I love her story. So you think of like a black woman, dark skin, short hair, grew up in like the 50s, 60s. Did not graduate from high school. She go to New York with the Black Panther Party. Put a couple black presidents into high school. She got a couple presidents into high schools, or principals. Sorry. And even when she was like, they was like on trial, I think it was like the New York 21. And she decided to like represent herself. I thought that was so dope. And she was pregnant with Tupac too. Like, and she simply said, you know, I'm not going out like that. I'm not going to have nobody represent me. And did such a good job with like turning those crooked cops as she like did her like interrogations or whatever. But the jury
is a good one.
Yeah, the jury kind of like deliberated for like an hour or two before they found her not guilty. It was like, damn, that's like some dope shit, you know. And then she also wrote like to the government at the same time, like, we will overcome, and calling out the U.S. government for that bullshit.
Yeah,
you know,
she was a beast.
Yeah, she was like incredible.
And it's just like there's like a lot of. I know like my list is like all women. People gonna be like, there's no men on your list. It's like not like I don't have no problem with like men. I'm sure if I like thought longer, I could like that. Well, I love Fred Hampton.
Oh yeah,
so,
me
like,
too.
Fred Hampton will have to be on my list, especially just because he was so young, like 20, 21 years old, and just like
full of like passion and fire.
Yeah, and like got people to like really like understand and like become engaged, like and just being like because most young people are dumb, like like. Most young people, like, it takes a while to, like, sort of figure stuff out. And so to be so young and to just be like, no. And then to, like, become such a threat that they, like, fucking kill you.
Assassinated him.
Assassinate.
Yeah. And that's why when we talk about, like, when people say, what about Chicago? I'm like, yeah, you killed, like, the leaders.
Yeah.
Killing the people who was actually, like, doing for the community. And, like, trying to, like, fix gaming issues or
Which
whatever.
was done on purpose.
Yeah.
The FBI even played a part in, like, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. So it's just like you kill the black leaders, you deliberately do things to destabilize our community in terms of infrastructure to fucking squash us.
And then say, look at this.
Look.
And it's weird too, like when you talk about Detroit, Chicago, you think about like the race riots. And I don't like to use that term simply because it's not like a black people going to fuck up white people.
It's a racially charged term.
It's always when black people are doing well, white people get mad and try to like tear us down. You know, you think about Detroit. I read something like it was this article. They talked about, obviously we have like the auto industry. We had like Ford, GM, but there was like this auto industry in the 1950s where a lot of black people was coming up, the Great Migration. So they was coming up, getting jobs, and they was like working their ass off. So they would get like leadership positions, management positions within like the what do you call it? Within the business,
like
within
the
like the factory, yeah. And then you would see so many white people get upset and they would walk out. Like in one case, I forgot what factory it was, but like 20,000 white people walked out because within 2 years, 3 black people were promoted.
Yep.
So it's like, and then they not only do they like walk out, they demand like, hey, you know what, we're not coming back. We're removing our jobs from here. We don't want anything to do with like Detroit. So you think about how depleted like my city is or whatever, and you say, okay. I see why. I see like some of the historical reasons why there's food deserts or there's no businesses there. And
the wild thing to me like about black Americans is also that in spite of all that type of stuff, in the face of all that type of stuff, like we still like build like persevere. Detroit, we persevere. Like Detroit still has like a culture. Like Detroit's like real distinct. Y'all have like your own like dances, like that Detroit like jitting,
rap music
and, like,
and everything.
That type of music, and I don't know if you wanted to like get into like the culture a little bit more, but it's just like in the face of all that stuff, like we definitely still persevere and we like still like do our own thing, and we just be like, fine, like whatever. We're gonna keep on, like we're gonna keep going.
Yeah,
like
I definitely feel like we're resilient, and I think that goes for like most black communities because. What I've noticed, like through traveling, like you go to like Baltimore, you go to Richmond, same shit. I mean, it's different, but same shit. So I definitely like.
Shout out to Richmond. Shout out to Tim.
Yeah, I definitely want to like salute my people because we're like working hard in the city. Even like you talk about like bookstores. There's like this bookstore that just opened called like The Source downtown Detroit.
Okay.
But we're like there's a Starbucks and there's white women jogging, but there's also like black businesses popping up. So there's organizations like New Era Detroit that's like doing a lot of work to protect black women, black children, black men. So like we're doing a lot, but unfortunately.
Do you guys ever plan on going back there?
Yeah, like I want to go back for sure, but it depends on like job opportunities because they suck us dry. Now if I go back, it would be because I have like my own business and I'm trying to like expand there, but I'm happy to be like close enough to where we can commute as often as possible. See family and to like still be a part of it.
Do you feel like Columbus? It looks different from Detroit. I feel like to me, even though it's like close, it like looks like what is it? The topography and like the way the city is laid
different.
out.
It's different for sure. And one thing I noticed here, because in Detroit, like obviously you're programmed to think, like throughout this throughout America, like whiteness is better. But in Detroit, it was interesting because you would see like homeless white people on the freeways. And this was like when I came up. So I never really thought people were better than us. In fact, I see my grandma and my mom giving money to like these people to the side. But here in the Columbus, pills and like so many homeless people. Yeah. Even in like the prosperous, like those great communities, you'll see like homeless people out. So it's a pretty big deal here, like where it's not just black people impacted by the economy and the drug epidemic or whatever.
So is it a lot of drugs here? I'm not like super
like
sure.
Pills and like what do they call it? Opioids. It's really a big issue here. Yeah.
I know like that hit the Midwest like really hard. Like in DC, we have a lot of like synthetic weed. People like doing synthetic weed, and that shit like makes you just like lose your mind and just be like screaming and like wilding out on the street.
Like K2 was like, what was it? Like K2 and some stuff. Yeah. We had that in like Detroit too. But mainly here with the pills, it's like white people.
It's white people. Yeah. I mean, because pills are kind of expensive, I feel like. And it's very interesting to see now that, like, the way that, like, the opioid epidemic is, like, treated versus, like, crack, right?
Look,
like,
it was just a bill, like, last year in Ohio. I believe it offered, like, people who were convicted or, like, if a police pulled up and locked somebody up for, like, pills, go to treatment instead of like prison. I said no, fuck that. Like no, go to jail. Like you can't lock us up for weed or whatever.
I did a video on that where I said the same thing. It was like a rant. I think it's called like on drug addiction, like rant video. And I remember somebody had left a comment that was like, oh, so, because it was like a similar type of thing. Like, I'm not voting for no bill that says like send them to rehab instead of jail, whatever. And somebody was like, oh, so you want more people to be put in jail, like just because they mishandled the war on drugs with the black community? Like that's just like continuing the cycle, and like you should just be happy that like the government learned, blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, they learned just in time. I was like, they learned just in time for white people, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, there ain't no bill to retroactively release all them niggas that's locked up in prison.
Not at all.
It's no bill to let them out and let them have their lives back. People that got 3 strikes for non-violent drug offenses. They just caught you being high. That's it. They just caught you being high on the street, and now you in jail for life because it was like a 3rd strike. I was like, it's no retroactive law to let them out. People that got locked up for being possessed, of marijuana possession, which they're now making legal everywhere. Ain't no retroactive bill to let them out and give them their lives back and expunge their record. Ain't no bill to let crackheads out and put them in rehab. Why should I sign a bill? Like, why? I was like, and it's not because I quote unquote want to see white people punished, even though I do, but it's just because like until it's just like you can't move on and just like not address the shit that fucking already happened. And that's like the big problem with like America, like the United States, is that like people just be wanting to like, well, they learned, so we're just gonna like move forward. Like you're just gonna like leave all these black people rotting. You're not gonna have no type of retribution.
No, I think we need to like, my thing is like focus on like the black person's struggle. Like we struggle so much, and like Assata Shakur said, like the foot on my neck is part of my body. Like that's a real thing. Like we need to like remove these, like this power structure, the white supremacy, this racism, take it, like remove it. And what, if they're introducing bills or anything that would like help us improve it, fine. But if you're not, like I got to take care of my people. Like it's my job to do so because the government's not doing
it. They're not doing it.
It's up to us to like take care of our communities, and everybody needs to be a part of it. We need like, it can't just be one figurehead or one leader. I think at this point, everybody should do it. Like you say, you do your videos, you support black businesses, you're raising awareness of like issues that goes on throughout America. So I just feel like we all need to do our part. So that's the reason why I put out 2 books. Like I'm releasing these books and I'm good because I know I don't have like a publishing house behind me. I don't have like a infrastructure. So it's coming out of pocket, and I employed I employed like 14 people with the editors. We shot a couple videos. So like we have like this piece called Powerful Hair, which I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah,
we put
you sent me the audio,
Yeah, but we did like a video for it, visual, just to celebrate black hair, right? So like 5-6 hair models, the videographer, like I just wanted to put out content that was going to uplift. So my way of doing for my community is just that, uplift my community with content, you know?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. How long was that?
It's about an hour 25.
Ever wondered why black girls jump rope so quickly and why their toes barely touch the ground? It's like the law of gravity doesn't exist or just haven't come around to the black side of town. They enter this world with targets on their backs, and their very existence or chance of living is predicated on their precision, as they must avoid being tripped up by society's swinging ropes. As they grow into women, double dutch becomes intersectionality, the reality of being black and woman, still existing in this world with a target on their backs as society waits for them to stumble. The mothers of their grandmothers had to jump rope too. These women jumped and sung the songs of their ancestors until their feet were sore. They did so with the hopes that black women in the future wouldn't have to jump anymore. But the way that the world works, if black women stop jumping, they'll become easy prey, and no one will care. History has proven this.